somewhere beneath the surface of the Earth. There is a place that has no name on any map that matters. No tourist visits it. No children are taken there on school trips. And the scientists who have spent their careers studying what was found inside, many of them have admitted, quietly, in interviews most people never read, that they wish they hadn't looked. What they discovered didn't just rewrite a chapter of human history. It rewrote the entire story of what human beings are capable of. And more disturbingly, what we have always been capable of. I need you to understand something before we go any further. Everything you're about to hear is real. Every discovery, every detail, and every name. There are no legends here. No myths. No ancient texts open to interpretation. This is physical evidence. Bones, and artifacts, and the remnants of human lives, some of them so small they fit in the palm of your hand. My name isn't important. What matters is this channel, Lost Epoch, exists for one reason. To tell you the stories that history textbooks skip over. The chapters that scholars debate in hushed tones. The discoveries that don't make it onto museum plaques because, frankly, they make people deeply uncomfortable. Today, we're going to talk about the single most disturbing category of discovery ever made by modern archaeologists and anthropologists. Not one site. Not one moment. But a pattern, a recurring, undeniable, stomach-turning pattern that stretches back hundreds of thousands of years. And it points directly at us. Stay with me. Section 1. 300,000 years of silence. Northern Spain. The Atapuerca Mountains. If you've never heard of this place, that's understandable. It doesn't look like much from the outside, rolling hills, and old stone. The kind of landscape that makes you think of shepherds and medieval castles, not the secrets of the human race. But underground, about 500 meters into a cave system that winds through limestone so old it remembers when the Atlantic Ocean was just getting started, there is a shaft. Archaeologists call it the Sima de los Huesos. In English, the Pit of Bones. The first bones were found in the 1970s. Researchers working their way through the cave system noticed something at the bottom of a near-vertical shaft, about 13 meters deep. Around 45 feet, for those of you watching in the US. They descended. What they found stopped the entire field of paleoanthropology in its tracks. At the bottom of that shaft were the remains of at least 28 individuals. Not animals, not random accumulation. Human beings. Or rather, the closest ancestors to human beings that existed approximately 300,000 years ago. A species called Homo heidelbergensis that is tall, powerfully built, with brains approaching our own in size. Not fully modern humans, but thinking creatures, social creatures, and creatures with enough cognitive complexity to plan, to communicate, and, as the evidence would devastatingly suggest, to feel. Now here's where it gets deeply unsettling. There are no other animal bones in that pit. Not one, in a cave system teeming with the fossilized remains of bears, lions, hyenas. The pit of bones contains almost exclusively these 28 individuals. The bones are not scattered the way they would be if bodies simply fell in accidentally. They are not the remains of a predator's meal. There are no tooth marks consistent with carnivore feeding. The most widely accepted theory among researchers, including the teams from the Complutense University of Madrid who have spent decades here, is that these bodies were deliberately placed in this pit. That 300,000 years ago, a group of pre-human beings carried their dead, possibly from miles away, to this specific shaft, in this specific cave, and lowered them, or dropped them, into the darkness. Think about what that means. It means that grief, the impulse to do something with the people you've lost, to not simply leave them where they fell, predates our species entirely. It means that the first burial, the first monument to the dead, the first acknowledgement that a life had meaning beyond its biological function, happened before Homo sapiens ever existed. That is profound. And in a strange, aching way, it is beautiful. But that's not the disturbing part. One object was found alongside the bodies. Only one. Not tools, not food, not useful objects left to help the dead in whatever came next. A single hand axe, a beautifully crafted, symmetrical, rose-colored quartzite hand axe that researchers have named Excalibur. It wasn't made from local stone. It was carried from somewhere else. Made with unusual care and craftsmanship for its era. It appears to have been placed as an offering. An intentional, symbolic, ritual offering. From a creature that, by our traditional scientific definitions, should not have been capable of symbolic thought at all. The pit of bones doesn't just disturb us because of what was found there. It disturbs us because of what it implies. It implies that the deepest parts of what we call our humanity, the grief, the ritual, the need to mark the passing of another soul, are not civilized inventions. They are ancient, primal, possibly biological. And if these impulses are that old, then so are the darker ones that accompany them. The children. The chosen ones. We leave prehistoric Europe and travel to a different continent. A different era. A civilization that, by most historical standards, was at the height of its complexity and power. The Inca Empire, in 15th century South America. By any measure, the Inca were extraordinary. Their road system rivaled Rome's. Their understanding of astronomy was sophisticated enough to build calendars that still functioned with remarkable precision. They constructed cities at altitudes that would give most modern people altitude sickness just from reading about them. And then once a year, sometimes more, they killed children. Not out of cruelty, not out of chaos or violence or societal breakdown. They killed children as the highest possible act of devotion they could imagine. This practice had a name, Capacocha. And in 1999, high in the Llullaillaco volcano on the Argentina-Chile border, at an altitude of over 6,700 meters, higher than almost any other archaeological site on Earth, a team of researchers made a discovery that has been described by those who were present as one of the most emotionally devastating moments of their professional lives. 3 children's. A girl of approximately 13 years old, now known as La Doncella, the maiden. A boy of roughly 4 or 5. A girl of roughly 4 or 5. All 3 were so perfectly preserved by the cold, dry altitude that they appeared, to the researchers who first laid eyes on them, to simply be sleeping. La Doncella was seated upright, her hair braided, her eyes closed, her expression peaceful. She was dressed in fine ceremonial clothing. Her fingernails were still intact and her skin was still present. She had been alive when she was placed there. She had been seated, positioned. And then the cold had taken her, slowly, as a kind of metabolic shutdown, possibly deepened by the chicha, the fermented corn drink. That analysis of her hair revealed she had been given in the weeks leading up to her death. Here's what makes this even harder to absorb. Further analysis of La Doncella's hair revealed a detailed chemical timeline of the final year of her life. 12 months before her death, normal diet, normal activity. Then, approximately 1 year out, an abrupt change, more protein, more coca leaves, a stimulant and ritual substance. Her diet shifted dramatically. She had been selected, and then she had been prepared, slowly, deliberately, reverently. In Inca society, this was not a punishment. This was an honor. The children chosen for Capacocha were considered the most physically perfect, the most spiritually pure. To be chosen was to be elevated to the status of deity. Their families were given gifts, their communities were blessed. These children were, in the belief system of one of history's most sophisticated civilizations, being sent directly to the gods. Archaeologists and anthropologists who have worked with these children, who have conducted the scans, analyzed the samples, written the academic papers, report consistently that the work is haunting in a way that purely scientific language struggles to contain. Because La Doncella, in her final moments, was not terrified. The chemical markers are not consistent with extreme acute stress at the time of death. She was calm. She believed that what was happening to her was right, that it was an honor, that she was going somewhere real and somewhere good, and that her death had meaning that most human lives never achieve. And that, perhaps, is the most disturbing part of all. Not that she was killed, but that she consented, as fully as a 13-year-old can consent, to her own sacrifice. Because someone a very long time ago told her a story about the world, and she believed it. just as every human being who has ever lived has believed some story about the world that shaped what they were willing to do, and suffer, and become. The Llullaillaco children are currently housed at the Museum of High-Altitude Archaeology in Salta, Argentina. If you go, you can see La Doncella through the glass. She is still seated, still peaceful, still, apparently, sleeping. The temple at the edge of history. I've saved what I think is the most intellectually disturbing discovery for this point. Not physically disturbing, not emotionally disturbing, but the kind of disturbing that keeps archaeologists awake at night staring at their ceilings, reconsidering everything they thought they understood about the arc of human development. Göbekli Tepe, southern Turkey. Discovered, or rather recognized, in the 1990s by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt. What Schmidt found was a series of massive, deliberately carved stone pillars, arranged in circles, decorated with animals and abstract symbols, buried under deliberately mounded earth. This is not unusual. We find ancient stone monuments all over the world. What is unusual, what is, in the strict academic sense of the word, impossible under the historical models we had confidently operated under for 2 centuries, is the date. Göbekli Tepe is approximately 11,600 years old. To put that in context, Stonehenge is about 5,000 years old. The Egyptian pyramids at Giza are about 4,500 years old. The earliest known cities, Uruk, in modern Iraq, began forming about 6,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe predates all of them by thousands of years. And here's what makes it so destabilizing. The people who built Göbekli Tepe had no agriculture, no permanent settlements, no pottery, and no writing. By the traditional model of human development, the one taught in schools and published in textbooks and used to organize museum displays, these people should not have been capable of this. The traditional model said, first humans develop agriculture, then they get surplus food, then surplus food enables specialized labor, then specialized labor enables the construction of monuments. Göbekli Tepe reverses that sequence entirely. Schmidt, before his death in 2014, proposed something that has since gained significant traction. Maybe it wasn't agriculture that built civilization. Maybe it was religion. Maybe these hunter-gatherers, spread across hundreds of miles of ancient Anatolia, came together not because they had surplus grain and needed to organize its distribution, but because they had a shared belief that pulled them to this specific hilltop. Maybe the need to build this temple is what drove them to figure out agriculture, because you can't feed thousands of workers on a multi-generational construction project with only hunting and gathering. Maybe the gods came before the grain. If that's true, if the impulse toward meaning, toward the sacred, toward the construction of something that transcends individual survival, if that impulse precedes everything else we call civilization, then what does that tell us about what we actually are? We like to imagine that religion, ritual, and belief are things that primitive people needed before science came along to replace them. We like to imagine that we are, as a species, moving toward rationality, away from the sacred. Göbekli Tepe suggests we may have that exactly backwards. The sacred may not be a stage we pass through on the way to modernity. It may be the foundation on which everything else we've ever built is resting.